My name is Lysandra, and my husband Kenneth and I met in high school. We were friends for 20 years and married for 13 years. On October 18th, 2017, Kenneth passed away unexpectedly, and I created this YouTube channel as a way to document my grief process. This year, on June 5th, 2018, when I am here on earth as a widow, spending my first wedding anniversary without my husband here with me, God's love is just as real and it's just as passionate and it's just as intense for me today as it was on my wedding day in 2004. It has not changed. My situation has changed, but God's love for me and the intensity of it and the passion of it is the same. And that to me is everything. So it's been 7 months since Kenneth went to be with the Lord, and I don't know why I thought it was 6 months, but I lost track apparently. Um, it's been 7 months. It's hard to believe it's been 7 months. Some of you know that my anniversary, our wedding anniversary, was June 5th, and so today's 8th. And, I was dreading the anniversary because I was thinking this is going to be hard, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do to ease the pain of the day. Although the night before was really hard, I was up to like 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't even know what all I was doing, but I think that the day itself went really well. And my friends sent flowers and cards, and people were texting me, people were posting on Facebook. If you're one of those people, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I totally felt loved. I felt remembered. I felt just like God was showing me his love through a variety of people. And I felt like, you know, I was able to still celebrate my marriage. And it made me think, just because he's not here doesn't mean that we don't celebrate the time we had together, or we don't celebrate the life that we had. The love that we shared and the impact of our life together is still a testimony. The journey, this grief journey, has been different, and every week is different, every month is different. I keep hitting almost like these shifts in this journey of grieving. In the month of March, though, I had a dream that I feel like is from the Lord. I actually woke up from the dream and then fell back asleep, and the dream picked up where it had left off. So I was pretty convinced that God was talking to me in the dream, and the dream had a lot to do with closure. And I really want to make that point here in this video too, because I think we don't talk about this aspect of grief enough, or we don't hear about it often. The way the person that is close to you passed away, I think, has a lot to do with your grief process. For me personally, it's very unexpected. And so there was no final moment where I, poured out my heart to him and said a final goodbye, or it left me with this feeling like there was no closure. It left me feeling like there was all this unfinished business that we had, and that's tormenting. That can feel very tormenting, and I feel like God knew that. And so in my dream that I had in the month of March, Kenneth and I are talking about him passing away. And he's telling me in the dream how he's at peace with it, and how he's come to a place of peace, and how he's okay, and how here's why it's okay. And in our relationship, you know, in real life, that's how we would have made a big decision. We would have talked about it, we would have came to an agreement, we would have come to peace about a thing, and then would have, you know, then would have done it. I felt like God was trying to allow me to experience what felt like this very real conversation with my husband, that allowed me to have closure, and allowed me to come to a place of peace about him passing away. And then right on the heels of that, I read this really good book by this woman named Christian Rasmussen, and she talks about how her grief process. I'll put a link to her book in the description because it's worth reading. She talks about the waiting room of life and how she became a widow in her 30s, and it's so good. She says that time did not heal her, but actions healed her. So she was saying time was passing on, but the day her husband passed away, the day her husband died, she died with him. You know, she could no longer live the life that she had been living while he was here, but she also had not yet stepped into her new life. And so she was in what she calls the waiting room of life. And she said that as she began to pursue, like intentionally pursue through intentional action steps, a new life, a second life, she wasn't able to really move through her grief. She had to come into a place where she intentionally decided to take some steps toward creating a new life. And so in the month of March, I had this dream about closure. Then I read this book, and that sparked me into a shift in my grief journey, where I began to think about a second life, a new life, things that I was going to do to move forward and to have this new chapter that I didn't know existed, and I didn't know was going to be a part of my life, because I thought that I was going to grow old with Kenneth. Past month or so, though, I've been really seeking God about zeal and passion. I feel like there's this grief language that only people who are grieving can kind of understand, and because you're talking about death, it sounds very dark and very negative, but it's really just factual. So like, I'll talk to someone else who's talking to me about grief, and they'll say, I kind of don't really want to be here like here on earth, you know, but I know that I have to be, and so I'm trying to get some energy to keep doing that. And it's said in a very matter of fact, and I think that if you're not in the grief process, or you haven't experienced that emotion, it's hard to understand, like, how can somebody feel like that in a matter of fact way? You feel comfortable with death. It's not suicidal, but it's almost like, I'm at peace. If it's time for me to go to heaven, I'm at peace. You know, that's okay, because the things that you were maybe wrapped up with here on the earth, you don't have them. You don't have those things anymore. Or maybe you see now how fragile it is. And so I have, you know, these kinds of conversations where, you know, I'm hearing that often, and I completely get it. I'm like, yeah, I completely feel that way from time to time, just kind of like a blasé indifference. I was praying about that because I know that you really need to bring a certain level of energy to the table of life. You need to be able to bring a certain level of passion in a certain fight, because life is not easy. I've always been very passionate and very like had a fight about me. And when I met Kenneth, he was the same way, and we shared the same passion and the same drive, and we fueled each other. So with him not being here, I was telling the Lord, where am I supposed to get this passion? this fight, this energy. To make a long story short, I started praying about it, and I started asking God, and telling God, I need you to either do something like supernatural to me or something, because there's no way that I feel like I can produce the level of grit that I once had, or that I'm gonna need to walk out the rest of my life here. It was interesting because I felt like God then started to deal with me about his love, and how it was gonna be his love that brought me this strength and this fight and this passion. And so I was reflecting on that, and I really felt very sure that that was the answer. The love of God has the power to change you. It has the power to bring confidence. It has the power to bring a reason for doing things. And so it was crazy because I was pondering this in the car maybe Wednesday night, and then a few days later I went to church on Sunday, and our pastor announces that the whole month he's going to be focusing on a series about the love of God. And so, of course, I wanted to turn everybody around me and say, does anybody else see what's going on? Because God is doing this just for me. And so I was so excited because I felt like, God, you're doing this just for me. I know that other people go to the church, but this is just for me. And yeah, I'm excited about it. And I do feel like that's key. If you are going through any kind of grief process, just knowing that God loves you the same with just as much intensity. If you would just get in your mind that thing that God did for you, that experience where you knew God loved you and you knew he was for you, and realize that in this moment, even though you feel broken, you feel crushed, his love for you is just as intense. Impact can be just as real and just as significant as it was back then, whenever you were sure about it and whenever you felt fueled by it and changed by it, that it's just as real, and its impact in your life can be just as significant as it was at that time. That is something that I'm going to be just intentionally studying, intentionally pondering, intentionally spending time in God's presence and just soaking in, pondering, studying, reviewing his love. I feel almost like he wants that to be a major part of how I move forward in this next season of my life. Just becoming even more rooted and grounded in his love in this moment. The truth is that this year, on June 5th, 2018, when I am here on earth as a widow, spending my first wedding anniversary without my husband here with me, God's love is just as real, and it's just as passionate, and it's just as intense for me today as it was on my wedding day in 2004. It has not changed. My situation has changed, but God's love for me and the intensity of it and the passion of it is the same. And that, to me, is everything. It's just everything. I can't explain it, but it's everything. And I wish that I had more to say. Like, I wish I could explain more in more detail what I mean, but I'm gonna just share more about it as I go and as I journey through this grief process. And I hope that this video blesses you. Please like, share, subscribe to this channel. I'm gonna be praying for you, and I ask that you guys continue to pray for me. Until next time.